boys and girls, students of Buddhist Sunday School, Dhamma classes, parents, grandparents, teachers of Dhamma classes, and also all Buddhist youth members. May you all be well and peaceful. For this presentation, we are going to do a Buddhist hymn, an Indonesian Buddhist hymn. We are going to go over the lyrics and also to reflect on the Dharma based on the lyrics. And also we can learn important things about certain aspects of the Buddha's life and also important Dhamma teachings. And at the end, you're going to listen to a rendition of the Buddhist hymn, Kelahiran Buddha Gautama. Now, as usual, we are going to launch the PowerPoint to explain the lyrics first. So, let us look at before that, let's check the setup. It is okay. So now let us launch the PowerPoint. See the cover slide. These beautiful paintings or portraits depicting the birth of Siddhartha Gautama, Kelahiran Buddha Gautama, birth of Buddha Gautama lah. And we are going to look at the lyrics of this Buddhist hymn, to comment on the lyrics and also to learn important things of the Dhamma. Now, you can see these beautiful pictures. The Siddhartha, when he was born, according to legend, he was able to speak, and also he took 7 steps, each step a lotus flower bloom. Now we will go over, I think the next slide is also a cover slide. Kelahiran Buddha Gautama, birth of Siddhartha. So let us now go over to the lyrics. Di Taman Lumbini yang indah. Now we have the English translation for all the lyrics in Bahasa Indonesia, which is quite similar to Bahasa Malaysia. Now, Lumbini is a beautiful place. So you find it's actually at the border of Nepal, the border with India. And it is a beautiful place. The place where Siddhartha was born, as shown by archaeological research. And when we were there, so we did the puja, and then circumambulation, and then to reflect, meditation. Is indeed a fantastic holy place of peace and serenity. Serenity would mean real tranquility, calmness, a sense of peacefulness. The mind is so very peaceful and calm. And this is great inspiration for any Buddhist pilgrim and also for any Dhamma practitioner. It inspires you to practice the Dhamma. So that is my notes and reflections. Now let us go on to the next slide. Now, menanti kelahiran Bodhisattva. The word Bodhisattva means a Buddha to be. And before his birth into the human realm on earth, he was residing in one of the heavens, the Tusita heaven, right? And of course, I think most of you know the story corresponding to a Vesak day. The baby Siddhartha was born. The mother was Queen Maya. And he was no ordinary child. He would become the fully enlightened Buddha, the teacher of gods and man. And of course, you know, he expounded the fantastic treasure of the Dhamma, right? Now, according to legend, as I said, he could speak. And he said that this will be his last birth. He is chief, right? A teacher of gods and man. And it was a very, very inspiring event according to the story. Even the devas or gods from heavens came down to welcome the bird. And of course, there were other people who accompanied the Queen Maya from the palace. So that is this next line. Now let's go on to the next one. Now, yang akan meninggalkan mahkotanya demi keselamatan manusia. In English, of course, it means he would leave behind his noble inheritance, all the wealth, the beautiful mansion, right, to leave the parents and also the wife, Yasodhara, and the son Rahula, who was just born for about a week or so, you see. And this was a great renunciation because actually he saw when he was, maybe near 29 at the time, right? And he saw the four sides. He saw an old man, he saw a sick person, and then he saw a dead person. So this made him think very profoundly about the suffering of human being, of all beings, to after being born, to age, to have sickness, to grow old, and to die. So it was very, very thought-provoking. So he affected him tremendously. And then he saw a monk so peaceful. So he made that resolution to leave everything behind. So you can see the notes and reflections in his 29th year, realizing the fleeting, that means the passing, the impermanent and unsatisfactory nature of life. That is the nature of life, right? Birth, and then aging, sickness, death. So he wanted to find out the truth behind all this. So he resolved, he made the determination to leave the home, to leave all that he had, the wealth and the people, to search for peace and truth. And this was a fantastic renunciation. So his departure from home, leaving home, never happened in the course of history. All right, so it was unprecedented, something very, very unique, unusual, never happened before. And why? Because he was compassionate. He was full of compassion for the suffering of all beings in the world, right? All human beings suffer, right? Birth, aging, sickness, and death. So he was determined to find the truth, to free us from all this suffering. And this great renunciation was followed by 6 years of intense, fantastic practice, meditation, reflection, especially meditation. So it was a real struggle. It was not easy. He even practiced asceticism to torture the body, because that time they thought that you could realize the truth this way. And of course, when he was 35, he found the truth. He got enlightened. He became the fully enlightened Buddha, the awakened one, because he had found the way out of suffering. Let us go on to the next one. Now, let us look at this line here. Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang. The Dhamma, your noble and glorious teaching. Now, glorious means fantastic, wonderful, marvelous, superb, worthy of admiration and fame. That's glorious, wonderful, superb, marvelous. And that was the Dhamma we will see. The most important Dhamma teaching he gave. And also, he was full of metta, or loving kindness and compassion, and he also taught the loving kindness. Now, so after having got the enlightenment, he preached for 45 years. He spread the Dhamma. our compassion for all beings. And the most important thing in his teachings is the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth being the noble truth of dukkha or suffering or unsatisfactoriness. All of us will go through suffering. And then he also explained the cause of dukkha, why there is suffering. Right? And then he said that there would be an end to dukkha. Right? There is a cessation of dukkha. And there is a way leading to the end of all dukkha, where we would be in nibbana, no longer to be born into a samsara, the suffering world. And this Noble Eightfold Path that he taught, found and taught is very, very important. That's the part. And of course, as now I said, he also taught the very important practice of metta or loving kindness. So that is the comment on this line of the hymn. Now, let us now look at the next slide, which has these lyrics. Di mana penuh kesedaran, satu jalan ke nirvana. Where there is full awareness, knowing, right? In the cultivation, very important, we must develop the mindfulness or full awareness. And then with the meditation, then there will be knowing and seeing. And then you will find the one way to Nibbana. And that one way to Nibbana is called the Noble Eightfold Path. After at another slide, we will briefly go over the 8 factors of this Noble Eightfold Path, which will lead to the end of suffering. And in the practice of these, you will gain more and more happiness, peace, calmness of the mind, right? And eventually the goal is to attain enlightenment, to be free from all suffering. Then you become the Buddha, or you become an Arahant, liberated from all suffering. So as I said just now, the only way to liberation, to be free from suffering or dukkha, is the Noble Eightfold Path. And in the Noble Eightfold Path, there's one important factor, which actually is the 7th factor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is right mindfulness. And in Pali, it is samasati. Now, if we practice this very, very diligently and ardently, all right, together with all the other 7, then you are on the right track. You are on the way to Nibbana. You are on the way to liberation, to end all suffering and misery. So that is a very important practice. So in Buddhism, we just don't talk of suffering. It's the first noble truth. Yes, we have to acknowledge that there is suffering, there is dukkha, but there is a way to be free from this suffering. So there's a beautiful thing in the Dhamma, the Noble Eightfold Path, right? To be free from all dukkha. Now let us go on to the next one. Now, this one, it says, di bawah pohon Bodhi suci, sang Bodhisattva tekun bersamadhi. I translated it as, beneath the holy Bodhi tree, the Bodhisattva meditates diligently. Now, I told you, he renounced at 29. And for 6 years, he struggled in his practice very, very hard, very diligent, very ardent, right? He tried all sorts of methods he had learned before. He had learned before under the, Brahmin religion at the time, all right? So, and of course, when he was 35, he made his way to this beautiful place, Bodhisattva, right? Buddha Gaya, sorry. This Bodhisattva made his way to Buddha Gaya, the place of enlightenment, and he sat under the Bodhi tree, and he made that determination, you can say a fantastic vow, that he would not leave the Bodhi tree until he became enlightened, until he found the truth to end suffering. And it was actually on a Vesak day, corresponding to the Vesak day, that he became enlightened. So this very, very auspicious day, the glorious day, this glorious, as now I told you, wonderful, super, marvelous, worthy of admiration, right? So was this glorious day. He was seated under the Bodhi tree at Buddha Gaya. Beautiful place. So if you go on the pilgrimage, you will find it's really inspiring. People from all over the world, pilgrims from all over the world will visit that place to meditate, to do chanting, right? To reflect on the Dhamma. And you will be inspired and you will realize certain things that you cannot get from the books. Right? It will spur you to practice hard. So as I said, under the Bodhi tree, the Bodhisattva made that vow not to get up, to leave his seat until he attained the supreme Buddhahood, until he got full enlightenment, until he became fully awakened to know what the truth is of suffering. Right? And it was on a happy Vesak full moon day, and it was 6 years after his great renunciation at the age of 29, we saw just now, that he attained Buddhahood. He obtained perfect enlightenment, Sama Sambuddho. So he was a fully enlightened Buddha. And that time, he was 35 years old. Okay? Very, very inspiring. You reflect on this, you see, so peaceful, so joyous, so serene, tranquil, unlike the world that we are at now, like especially now pandemic, you see people have so much suffering, right? So that is this inspiring, right, practice of the Dhamma to be enlightened. Now, these lyrics mencapai penerangan yang sejati. So at the enlightenment, he attains the true knowledge and insight. What actually is the truth? He could, with his enlightened mind, with all the psychic powers he acquired, he could penetrate into the true nature of things to understand the cause of suffering. What the nature of life, of dukkha, right? The Four Noble Truths, the cause of dukkha, the end of dukkha, the way to end dukkha, right? So hilang lenyaplah derita dunia we, right? How to end all worldly suffering, dukkha. So on the way to enlightenment, as I told you, he sat under the Bodhi tree and made a vow not to leave the seat until he got enlightenment. So it was at 3 periods of the night, we call the 3 watches, that he realized the important things and eventually became enlightened. Now, what do you mean by the 3 watches of the night? This refers to periods of time. At the first watch, which corresponding to our time here, is about 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., right? That period, he of course already reached such a high level of his meditation. He had the jhanas or absorption states, and he could see into his previous life. So many lives he had lived as human beings, as gods, you see, as maybe animals even. So he saw his previous lives. Not only 100 years, thousands of years, millions of years he had been spinning in samsara, just as we all do. We have been also spinning, suffering for so many lifetimes. So that was what he saw, what he realized at the first watch, 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. The second watch would be 10 to 2, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. Each one 4 hours, right? Just now 6 to 10, and now 10 to 2. And he could see into very important things. He understood, saw very clearly, realized, right, about this repetitive cycle of birth. When there's birth, there's death, and then to be reborn again. And he could see that all beings go through this birth, death, and rebirth based on their karma. Where they are going to be reborn will be dependent on the karma. To be reborn into hell, or animal rape, or ghost, or human, or heavens, the Deva's world, will depend on the karma. So he understood this, he saw this. And of course, later on, he thought about this. He thought, propounded the Dhamma, expounded the Dhamma. And then the third watch is a very important period from 2 a.m. Just now it was supposed to be 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Not 2 p.m. 10 p.m. Sorry, 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. That's the second watch. Now the third watch is 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. The first watch, remember, it was 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then second watch, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Late into the night already, next morning already. And then the last watch, very important watch, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And he realized the most important truth, the most important dharma in his entire preaching, and that is the Four Noble Truths. And he understood that suffering can be overcome. There's a way out of this suffering, and that is the Noble Eightfold path. It is the path to enlightenment, to end suffering. And this is one of the Four Noble Truths, actually, right? The fourth one. After this, we have a look at these Four Noble Truths briefly. So that is this very important Dhamma that we need to learn again and again and reflect. And also, you could really be inspired by the Buddha's enlightenment to expound this truth, which, of course, until today, we have it, that is helping us, right, to lessen dukkha. The more we practice according to his teachings, the more we will lessen dukkha. Dukkha will be less until eventually we attain enlightenment. Right. So let's go on to the next one. Now, the Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang. So this one, right? So I think it's quite similar, right? Quite same, not just the same. Some repetitions of the lyrics. The Dhamma, your noble and glorious teaching, I've explained the word glorious, tells us now of loving kindness. Of course, he also taught the loving kindness. And let us emphasize again, after enlightenment, the Buddha taught for 45 years, his ministry, 45 years, and he passed away at the age of 80, right? 35 enlightenment, and then 45 years teaching the Dhamma, expounding the Dhamma, spreading the Dhamma. So the most important thing, we have to go over again and again. The first noble truth of suffering or dukkha, why you have suffering, how to end suffering, and the way to end suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. So if a practitioner, Dhamma practitioner, realizes all these truths, which means realizes the Noble Eightfold, realizes the Four Noble Truths, right? through the practice of walking the Noble Eightfold Path. When you realize the Four Noble Truths completely, then you become enlightened. If you understand to a certain degree only, not yet enlightened, but on the way, maybe you get the first stage already, or second stage, that also fantastic because you're on the way. And if you reach the first stage, you will no longer be reborn in the suffering states of hell, animal, or hungry ghosts already. So 7 more lifetimes you will be born as a human being or a god in the heaven. That is, if you have reached the first stage of what we call the Sotapanna, right? The first stage of Arahanthood. So that's very inspiring because we have a way out, you see, to practice. So if you are motivated and inspired to practice after this presentation, that is fantastic. This is a beautiful image of the Buddha preaching to so many, perhaps the gods even came down from heavens to listen. So now, di mana penuh kesedaran, satu jalan ke nirvana. Now, just now we mentioned this already, right? Full awareness, right? To be mindful, to meditate until we at a certain level that we know what is the truth. We realize important things of the Dharma. That Four Noble Truths to a certain degree, you understand already, and then you go on, you see. So, just now I already told you that right mindfulness is one of the 8 factors. So together with the other 7, then if you practice diligently, you will soon end all forms of suffering and misery. But along the way already, you can get many benefits already. Right? Your wisdom grows steadily, then you can cope with the problems of life. You will be more peaceful, happy, joyous. Isn't that wonderful? A way, right? Especially now when the times are so challenging with the pandemic and then with the political troubles, wars all over, natural disaster calamity. So if you have this Dharma realization, your mind is better, you can cope better. So isn't it worthwhile to learn, understand, reflect upon, and practice the Dharma diligently? Now, this one actually is what we call the music part of the song, the lull, right? So then in this period there, we make the aspirations. May we be calm and peaceful. Very important, isn't it? But we cannot be calm and peaceful if we don't practice. Our mind will be disturbed by so many negative things that strike us. Problems of life, right? Sickness, financial problems, no money, especially now in this pandemic, so many people have no jobs, no food to eat, right? So times are very challenging. So if we practice well, then we can maintain a better degree of calmness and peacefulness in the mind. So, and then we'll be tranquil. Tranquil also suggests calmness, peacefulness, serenity, right? Not shaking or being agitated or disturbed. Very, just like a tranquil lake, you can see so very calm, right? The lake, like not moving like that, so still. The stillness. So this is the aspiration you can make. And the next aspiration, may we be patient and tolerant. That's very important. The Buddha once said, patience, tolerance, and understanding are among the highest virtues a man can develop. So, there's this beautiful saying, that if you are not patient, you will soon be a patient in the hospital, right? And you get into trouble and become sick, or you can meet with an accident or whatever. And tolerant means that you can bear with things. You have forbearance, right? You won't be so easily agitated, so easily angry. and then your mind so easily disturbed and make you suffer. So when the Dhamma is practiced well, you develop these qualities are very, very good. And then with these qualities, then of course you can live more peacefully and happily and joyously with all other people around you. Not only with the people, with the animals also, and with the spirits also. So isn't it wonderful? So this is a very important thing, to develop patience and tolerance. You know, when we do not understand things, we do not understand the things of nature. In other words, we do not see the truth. We do not see things as they truly are. But you see things based on your knowledge. You're seeing the things on TV, and then the things that you were taught. So all these things, some of them are distorted. They may be superstitions. They may not be the actual truth. So you see, our minds are filled with all these things. We are, greedy. We get angry easily. We are hateful. We are jealous, right? We are envious, and then we are proud because we don't see the important truth in nature, that these things all are going to cause suffering. So when we practice, then slowly you begin to get insights. You begin to gain wisdom to understand the things of nature, the happenings around us, and also in the mind. And of course, eventually, where you fully comprehend the Four Noble Truths, then you become enlightened. So we make this aspiration, may we be enlightened. Now you go on to the lines which I have done before already. Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang. So it's the same thing. So I may not go all over again, except to remind you to go over the Four Noble Truths many, many times. Some people say, yeah, we have listened so many times already. You know, for 30, 40 years, I have been also still studying the Four Noble Truths and trying to understand and reflect. But many people don't have the patience. They think that you read once, you can maybe score an A writing all these things, but you don't really understand and you have not contemplated and practiced on the truth of the teachings, isn't it? The Four Noble Truths. So each time that you reflect and go over, you can read books and can go into the original Buddha's teachings on this, then each time your mind becomes brighter. You understand more and more. And as you understand more and more, your happiness, peace, joy, wisdom begin to grow steadily. So in Dharma, learning, repetition is important. You cannot just do once and expect everything to happen according to what you wish. Just as a person who wants to win the race, maybe 100 meters or maybe 200 meters, 400 meters in the Olympics, for example. You cannot just practice once only, isn't it? He has to practice or you maybe for years. Similarly, with many other things, the great musicians, the artists, the writers, all, great people go over again and again and they practice hard. So likewise also we must practice hard. And one of the important things is to learn, understand, reflect, and practice more and more and more of the Four Noble Truths. That is what I want to emphasize. Now again, just now, I already did this, where there is full awareness, remember, and knowing, samasati. Then eventually, together with the other 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, you will attain Nibbana. So now let us go over briefly. We are not going into the details of this Noble Eightfold Path. What sort of things are they? The first one in Pali is Samaditi, Chenchen, which is right understanding or right view. And the most important right view is to understand the Four Noble Truths. So when the person has the right view of the way things are, the most important one being the Four Noble Truths, then actually you go into the Noble Eightfold Path already, you have got a very high level already. And this can lead you to the next one, right thought. That means it's Sama Sankappa, 正思维. That means to have the proper or the perfect thought, thoughts of metta, non-attachment to all the sensual things, right? Thoughts of non-cruelty. So all very, very good positive thoughts. And when you have good or right understanding, right thought, your speech also will be right speech, sama vacha, to speak the truth, right? Not to, carry tales, not to slander, not to speak in a divisive manner, and then not to use harsh words, harsh speech, and not to gossip or use frivolous speech. And then, of course, because you have right understanding, followed by right thought, you won't do the bad things already with your body. You won't kill, you won't steal, you won't commit sexual misconduct. And that is sama kamanta. You see. And then, of course, when you have right understanding, right thought, you won't earn a living that harms another being, isn't it? Right? You won't, try to earn money by cheating, by killing, by selling liquor or poisons that harm other people. So you will have the right mata pencarian, right? You can be a doctor, you can be even an honest salesperson, a hawker, or lawyer, whatever, as long as you do not harm or cause hurt to another being. Right effort, that is done. This last three is to train the mind, right? Right effort, to always watch the mind, make sure that the mind is filled with positive thoughts, make sure, bad thoughts don't come into the mind. If there are bad things in the mind, you have to get rid of all those bad thoughts, right? And then to cultivate so that you have more and more good thoughts in the mind. So you make that effort of watching the mind to discard or to throw away all those bad thoughts, right, in the mind. And also to develop the good qualities of the mind, like metta, generosity, non-attachment, right, compassion, many good right thoughts that you develop in the mind, isn't it? And right mindfulness. Now, of course, people translate samasati as mindfulness, means to know, to be aware of whatever that is happening around us, right? But in the noble way, right mindfulness, samasati goes to meditation where we are contemplating or focusing our attention on all things, but we're not going to go into that detail. The right mindfulness for your ordinary practice, that you must remember. The word sati actually means to remember, to recollect what you have learned in the Dhamma, what instructions you have learned in order to practice. You must remember, then only you can practice, isn't it? And you develop this awareness, this knowing of what is happening every time in the present moment, on what is happening in your mind and your body and also the environment. This is a very important quality, to be mindful, people say, to be aware, right? To have the attention, right? To know what is happening around us. And then the last one is also pertaining to concentration, meditation, sama samadhi. In Chinese is zhen ting. This one is zhen yan, right? And then this one is zhen zhi jing, zhen jin jing, zhen jin jing. This ajiva is zhen ming, right? So this right concentration is pertaining to the meditative states. So when we practice all this, starting with the samadhi, then you are on the way to enlightenment, to be free from suffering. So this gives just a brief thing only, right? Maybe in a future lesson we will go over more details. But because you are mostly young people, this lesson are more suitable for upper secondary, secondary and the Buddhist youth, university students, and all others who are interested. Now, say di bawah lindunganmu jaya muda yang maha suci dan sempurna. So, I translated it as refuge in you leads to successful protection. Buddha is the most holy and perfect one. Very important for a Buddhist is to take the three refuges in his San Kui La, Kui Po, Kui Pa, Kui Sen. A refuge in the Buddha, in the Dhamma, and the Sangha. In the future lesson, again, I'll do more detail on this. Now, my notes and reflection, we have to notice that this is a very important thing. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. We chant these three things and it's very good for your mind, especially when your mind is so troubled or fearful, when you think the place is haunted or you are in trouble. This is very good to chant. It makes your mind peaceful and it means homage to him. Very, very high respect, right? To the Buddha. He's the gracious one. Gracious would mean here he's very, very kind and pleasant, right? Always full of metta, concern, compassion, the exalted one, the very lofty one, the excellent one. And he's the perfectly enlightened one, the perfectly awakened one. Then if you want to go further, you have another one that is very important, is longer. Itipiso arahang samma sambuddho vicha charana sampano sugato loka vidu anutaro purisa dharma sarati sata dewa manusa nang buddho bhagavati. This talks about the virtues of the Buddha, right? The Buddha is the worthy one. Worthy of respect, worthy of homage. He's fully enlightened. He has his endowments is filled with the perfect knowledge. He has the perfect understanding, the omniscient, that means all-knowing, all-knowing. And he has the perfect morality. He is excellent, lofty, and he knows all about the world. He's the best teacher, the best guide for those who need to train the mind. Cannot be compared, right, with any other guide if you want to train the mind. He's the Buddha, the incomparable guide for a person who wants to train and develop the mind. And he's the teacher of gods and man. And that's the Buddha, the fully enlightened one, the gracious one. So you find that these are the qualities. So whenever you have problems or the mind is disturbed, these are two very good things for you to chant, and it will work fantastic things happening to you because your mind is elevated to a very high state. So the Buddha, yang telah mengorbankan harta benda untuk membebaskan penderitaan. He has sacrificed all the worldly and material wealth. He has left his very fantastic mansion, his parents, his loved ones, the wife, the son, Rahula, and all the wealth. Why? Because he was full of compassion. It was a great sacrifice, He would not just be attached to those things and forget that other people are suffering. So it was a great renunciation in order to show us the way to end suffering. And later on, when he got enlightened, he went back, isn't he? Right, to preach the Dhamma and then help them to attain very high levels of peace, happiness, and so on. So people say Buddha selfish because he left the wife and the son, but it is not the great sacrifice, not ordinary person can do it. So we reflect to the Buddha, the fully enlightened one, we owe a gratitude. Definitely, we should be very grateful, the greatest gratitude to the Buddha to sacrifice all those things to seek enlightenment and preach the Dhamma for our sake. And the Dhamma is the greatest treasure. So how do we express our gratitude? What is the best way to show? You don't go and pray to the Buddha and offer food and all this. That's not the proper way. The greatest gratitude you can show to the fully awakened Buddha is to practice ardently and diligently the Dhamma. Then you would have shown great respect and gratitude to the Buddha because this is the Dhamma that will lead to end of suffering. Right? So this is this one is the same thing. Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang. So you see, important things are repeated so many times. I mentioned for you already. So if you want to read more about the 45 years of the Buddha's ministry in propounding and spreading the Dhamma, you can read. There are so many books. You can even watch on YouTube. And then each time you do that, you are doing something fantastic, better than all the time just watching Netflix or maybe all the YouTube entertainment programs. Those you can watch also. But then how much time do you spend on more important things? Even eventually everything all useless already, because any of us can die anytime, isn't it? Not only old people, young people also can pass away, sicknesses, accidents, and so on. So then the wise one will say, oh, I must spend some time apart from my entertainment and all this. So that is wisdom. So this one also the same thing. Di mana penuh kesedaran satu jalan ke nirvana. The only way to end suffering, the only way, right, to be free from samsara, to end the rounds of birth, death, and rebirth, to attain nirvana, the unconditioned, perfect happiness, perfect peace, the state of perfect happiness, perfect peace, no more rebirth, is to follow the Noble Eightfold Path only. Right? And I explained just now already the way to liberation. Last words, I come to the end of the slide. Right? The last words is that think not that you have no teacher. The Buddha, of course, passed away more than 2,600 years ago. So this word, his last word, his final hour of death. Right? Say, think not that you have no teacher after my death. You know, I have given you the Dhamma. Regard the Dhamma I have taught you, and also the Vinaya. The Vinaya actually are the rules of the monastic or the monks and nuns. So not so applicable for we lay people. So he say you regard this Dhamma for us will be the Dhamma as the teacher. He did not appoint any successor, no. So the Dhamma for lay people will be a teacher. For the monks, the Dhamma and the Vinaya. And he said, he did not ask you to worship, to pray him and serve him with all the food. He said, he who practices my teaching best serves me most. So it's very stated very clearly. So if you want to show your gratitude, right, and you want to serve the Buddha most, not be food, but to practice his teaching, which is the Dhamma. And he said that he who sees the Dhamma sees me. You want to see the Buddha, you see the Dhamma, then you see the Buddha. And if you see the Buddha, you see the Dhamma. Yes, like those days when he was around, right? So he told the monks, so you see the Dhamma, you see me already. No need to be physically near me, isn't it? And then the last line, very, very important, just at the final hour of that, transient. Transient means impermanent. Right, Wu Chang. Right? All things they are made up of components, right? Parts. They are conditioned things. Everything all in the world, they are impermanent. 全部东西是无常的. So this when things are all impermanent, they give you suffering. So we must strive on. We must struggle on very, very diligently and with a passion. Strive on where? What? The Noble Eightfold Path. So that is the final message. And now we see, lastly, I wish you, may you be well, happy and peaceful. Now we will stop share, and I want you to listen to this beautiful Buddhist hymn. I've explained all the lyrics already, so listen to the hymn. You understand all the lyrics because I explained, and you can be inspired, all right? So we stop this share. So now we will share screen again, but this time we will share the video, or you can say the song. So now you can see this sharing now. All right, let's start.
Bodhi satwa tekun bersama mencapai penerangan yang sejati, hilang lenyaplah derita duniawi. Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang di mana penuh kesadaran, satu jalan ke nirwana.
As the music part, I remember to make the aspiration to become a peaceful, tolerant, living in harmony with all sentient beings, receiving as they truly are. And if you practice well, they will become enlightened. Those were the aspirations.
Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang di mana penuh kesadaran, satu jalan ke nirwana. Di bawah lindunganmu jaya budaya maha suci dan sempurna yang telah mengorbankan harta benda untuk membebaskan penderitaan. Dhamma ajaranmu yang mulia kini beritakan kasih sayang di mana penuh kesadaran, satu jalan ke nirwana.
So that's the end of this beautiful Indonesian Buddhist hymn. I hope you like it. And having explained all the lyrics, I hope you understand, right, the Bahasa Indonesia. Now, actually, this YouTube was done by Brother Teki Kiang and is very well synchronized. I did also one video many years ago, but after so many years, I found that the lyrics do not synchronize, do not go well, with the singing out of phase, So I couldn't use the version that I did, which is also on YouTube, because the lines do not check properly with the singing. This one is very well done, and I think many people in the world have listened to it and have been inspired by it. So I hope you too are inspired and that you will be motivated to practice the Dhamma. So before we conclude, I would like to say thank you, sadhu, to all those Dhamma students, maybe in the upper secondary of the Buddhist Sunday School, then the Dhamma classes, the secondary students, and also all the Buddhist youths, and also parents and grandparents who are trying to inculcate good Buddhist education into their children or grandchildren, and also all the teachers who have done fantastic meritorious deeds by volunteering to teach the Dharma in the Buddhist Sunday School and Dhamma classes, and also to the Buddhist youth. So in appreciation, so let us now put our palms together and say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be well and peaceful. And may you continue to strive on in the Dharma. Right? So let us now stop the sharing here. So now we are going to end this slide now. So now let us now end this one now. Right? So now let us end this and end the meeting for all. May you all be well and peaceful.